Okay, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 9. For God has not destined us for wrath, but for obtaining salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us, that whether we are awake or asleep, we may live together with him. Okay? Again, we're not destined. That's the New Testament church. That's us, who believe, who are washed in the blood, who are born again, who have repented. Okay? 1 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 12 and 13. Alright, let's look at 11, 12 and 13. Now may our God and Father himself and Jesus our Lord direct our way to you. And may the Lord cause you to increase and abound in love for one another and for all men, just as we also do for you, so that he may establish your hearts unblameable in holiness before our God and Father at the coming of our Lord Jesus with all his saints. Who's Jesus coming with? All his saints. Who are his saints? Answer that question for yourself. Okay, so let's look at two groups of people, and this has been batted around a few times, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it, so I'll stick my 2 cents in on it. You've got two groups in the Old Testament that have been talked about, at least that have been brought to my attention when I was post and pre and all that kind of stuff, and everybody talks about it, so let's talk about it. You've got Lot at Sodom and Gomorrah, and you've got Noah and the ark coming through the flood. Well, Lot, who was being judged? Who was the wrath upon? The wrath was upon Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot was taken out of Sodom and Gomorrah. He was not left in Sodom and Gomorrah and hidden in Sodom and Gomorrah in a nuclear bomb shelter or anything like that. He was taken out. God sent 2 angels to pull Lot out of Sodom and Gomorrah. Then, with Noah, there's actually 4 groups of people in the story of Noah and the flood. And the one thing I want you to think about before we talk about the story of Noah is Noah had 100 years to prepare for the flood. We've had 2,000 years to prepare for the end time. Okay? And according to what Jesus says, we're supposed to know, we're supposed to study, we're supposed to watch, we're supposed to be looking diligently. Anyway, back to Noah. Who are the 4 groups that we're looking at in Noah? Well, you've got Noah and his family, who went in the ark and rode on top of the water over the flood. You've got the people that were under the water who, they kind of had a bad day and didn't quite make it very good at all. So they died. Then you've got the Nephilim. Who are the Nephilim? The Nephilim are the offspring of the women, the daughters of men, and the fallen angels. They became giants. They were genetic defects, or genetic, whatever you want to call them, because they had 6 fingers and they were giants. Look at the story of David and Goliath. He's a giant. Look at the story of when the Jews were coming into the promised land. The Hebrews were coming into the promised land. Okay? The 2 spies went in. He said the people are giants. They make us look like grasshoppers. So you have the Nephilim, some of them at least, either come through or the fallen angels get more women pregnant after the flood and have more genetic diversity, if you will. The fourth group of people is Enoch. Enoch was Noah's grandpa. And if we read in Hebrews chapter 11 verse 5, that's in the New Testament, way on that end of the book, it says, by faith Enoch was taken up, so that he should not see death, and he was not found because God took him up. For he obtained the witness that before his being taken up, he was pleasing to God. Okay? So there's 4 groups of people. There was Enoch, who was taken out because he was pleasing to God. He was raptured, if you will. You got Noah who arrived above the flood. You got people who died under the flood. And then you got Nephilim who end up on the other side who pollute the inhabitants of the promised land. And that's why God sends them in, the Hebrews in, to kill every man, woman, and child. But he's trying to get rid of that genetic whatever between the fallen angels and women. Okay? The daughters of men. So if we look at the example where we talked about in Matthew chapter 11, Jesus says that no man born of a woman was greater than John the Baptist. Okay? But the least in the kingdom will be greater than him. And Enoch was not greater than John the Baptist, is what Jesus is saying. And he was raptured out. I don't know what the story is there, but hey, you make up your own mind. But anyway, all I'm saying is that there is a precedent there. And you have to identify who the wrath is for, and you have to identify what the wrath is for. The wrath in Revelation is God dealing with the nation of Israel, because they turned their back on him all through the Old Testament, the latter part of the Old Testament, worshiping idols and all of those kinds of things, and then they rejected the Messiah, and that's the big one. And they've got to be brought to bear with that. So anyway, that's some of the stuff that I wanted to lay out as a precursor to what I'm fixing to get into. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is, well, I don't know where I'm at with all this because I've got a bunch of pieces. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to start another set so we can start fresh on this. Okay? So hang on just a sec. Go to part next whatever.